Are you not entertained? Goodness me. Where do we begin? Holy smokes. To anybody who said that this new Champions League format was going to be a bust, where are you at now? Where are you at now? Because genuinely, bro, I have never been this excited for a Champions League group phase than ever in my lifetime. All right. Even though, and this is me speaking as PSG, obviously we're going to be playing tomorrow. My team's not doing, particularly great or anything. So there's no bias and whatnot. But I think as a neutral, this is the most exciting group phase of the Champions League that I've ever seen. And if you argue against it, genuinely, I need to hear your reasons. The two big shocking results here today. Real Madrid lose 3-1 at home to Milan, and Sporting spank Manchester City 4-1. I think there's no better place to start than Real Madrid. And before I go on and, go and criticize Madrid, and it's mostly going to be that, I'd like to go and give, Milan their flowers. I think Milan were excellent today. I think they played Real Madrid off the park. I think they executed their game plan to a T, and you have to give credit where credit is due for Milan in this case. However, I think the biggest talking point, and obviously given, the biggest club in the world, the most successful club in the world, the biggest club in footballing history, I think we got to talk about Real Madrid. And now, seriously, I think we're in a position to start thinking, is Real Madrid in crisis mode right now? I think we need to start asking the question here, because now Real Madrid have conceded 7 goals in their last 2 games. They're on 2 back-to-back defeats at home at the Bernabeu. And even going further back, and as I know the Dortmund side, not gonna lie, now that you look at things in context and you look at it retrospectively, I think that Dortmund game flatters Madrid heavily, because that game, that first half, they could have easily gone on and been 3-4 down. All right. And if it wasn't for a spectacular, inflamed and enthused Vinny that day, they could have easily lost that game as well. And then you also think of the fact that they also then lost to Lille away from home. And we could be genuinely speaking of a scenario here where Real Madrid have lost 3 Champions League games and only on 1. Obviously now, they obviously went on to win the Dortmund game, but this game here, you can't say it hasn't been coming. And given the way that Real Madrid has been playing this season, you can't say it's not a shock to anybody necessarily, given the way that they've been playing. It might be a shock because, yes, it's Real Madrid and you expect them to, find a way to do it like they always do. But things are just not working anymore. And as I said, I'm asking the question here. I'm not saying they are or whatnot, but is Real Madrid in crisis? And as an extension of that, are we in the position where we need to start having the conversation of, is Ancelotti really the right man for the job? Genuinely, because at this point, as a neutral, even though I really do not like Real Madrid, I am genuinely baffled as to how big of a collapse, at least early on, things have been. Because you think Real Madrid last season cruised their way, were in cruise control for most of the La Liga season, went on, won another Champions League, had everything working for them. And then now they add a crown jewel to the puzzle. They add the creme de la creme, the cherry on top of all of this, adding one of the best players in the world, Kylian Mbappe, a player who they have been on the lookout for since he was like 16 or whatnot. And finally, after years of agony, years of deliberation, getting snubbed, getting duped and whatnot, they finally get him. And you think now it's over. Real Madrid, this could be potentially one of the greatest teams in all of footballing history. And you see the start. Okay, that first game against Atalanta, enthralled. You see some patterns of play, and Mbappe scores on his first game. You think this is going to be a great start, this and the other. And then league games come, not as great. Okay, little issues here, but they're still winning. Today. This is Madrid. They find a way to win. But now you have the faux pas in the league getting draws. Okay, not great. Then you go to Lille, you lose. All right, not ideal. You get smacked 4-0. 4-0 in El Clasico. And then obviously you have the whole debacle of everything with the Ballon d'Or and everything. Wow. And continuing on here from the whole Ancelotti out here, as a non-Madrid fan, I'm genuinely asking the question here, what is the problem? What is the cause of this problem? Because the thing is, though, the team was working perfectly fine. People are saying, oh, it's Kroos leaving, this and the other. And I guess, yes, I definitely do think that Kroos leaving the team definitely plays a factor in all of this and in Madrid's current woes and whatnot. However, at the beginning of the season, nobody thought that, maybe thought that, there would have been a time of, where they need to adapt and everything. But Real Madrid still had Camavinga, Tchouaméni, Valverde, Modric. That should be more than enough to compensate for, losing Toni Kroos, so on and so forth. But everything seems to work. They're not attacking well. Their midfield is getting ran over. Their defense is not solid at all. Literally everything around Madrid. The only thing that you could say is sort of somewhat decently reliable is their goalkeeping. And even though, Lunin did concede 3 goals today, I don't think there's any goal there that you go and say is clearly his fault. I'm not sure if he swapped 𝙀𝙀 Courtois and put him in there that he's, saving them. And if anything, I'd say that oftentimes 𝙀𝙀 Courtois, saves Madrid buses a lot. But I genuinely don't know here. I think the one thing that we've seen in all of this is that I just do not think that you can have the big three. And I want to say the big three are Bellingham, Vinny, and Mbappe. From now on, maybe I'll be proven wrong afterwards, but I think right now, as things stand, I do not think you can have all three of them playing on the pitch at the same time. I just do not think they work together. Their patterns of playing them. Vinny and Mbappe obviously don't defend, so that's two men you're basically lost in terms of on defensively. Bellingham is now being hindered because he can't play as high as he used to, because if you can't have three players not defending, but he doesn't know where he's going. Mbappe doesn't know what he's doing. Vinny is sort of doing his own thing, but is not nearly as effective as he was last season. It just generally nothing here works. And from Carlo's point, and I see, and this is where I think hopefully my insight as a PSG fan will help here. What I see happening to Real Madrid currently is what I saw with PSG with M&M. And if anything, at least worse, because at least M&M, they were clicking in their moments or spurts, and you sort of, into some degree, they sort of had their own defined roles. But at this point, nobody doesn't. They don't even know. The players don't even know what they're doing, because in the one sense, there's Vinny and Mbappe obviously already stepping on each other's toes. Vinny is a naturally left. Vinny is an out-and-out winger. All right, that is his trade. Goes on the wing, causes havoc, cuts inside, puts in crosses, sometimes cuts in finishes as your typical winger. Mbappe, obviously early in his career was that, but it has now shifted more so into what I would like to say as a left forward. Not quite a winger, not quite a striker, but sort of in that half pocket there as a left forward. The problem is that that's the space that Vinny occupies, and Mbappe is not your hold up number 9. Even at PSG, there were moments last season where we're saying Mbappe at number 9. Do we like him? Do we not? Sometimes he'd have okay performances at number 9, and other times he'd be completely disastrous. I just genuinely think we've tried it too many times. I think we can see clearly that 9 currently for Mbappe, it does not suit him. He needs to be somewhat adjacent to the left side. I think we've seen that crystal clear. However, you can't have two players occupying the exact same space, and then you add on to the fact that sometimes they try to throw in Rodrigo in there. It's just too many players trying to do the exact same thing. And it's just, I think we'll go and put in questions of ego, this, that, and the other. And what I was saying, and to make the comparison back to the PSG of Pochettino and 𝙀𝙬 as well, is that people are saying, oh, then take one of these people. You can't take. Look at this from Real Madrid's perspective, or even from Ancelotti's perspective. And I hope now, at least people will begin to see just how not easy, and will begin to perhaps have a bit of sympathy or empathy or understand what was happening with PSG a couple of years ago, because I see an exact parallel as to what's happening at Real Madrid now. When you have Bellingham, Vinny, and Mbappe, all three players who finished in the top 6, if I'm not mistaken, I think Mbappe finished 6 of Ballon d'Or voting. So arguably the top 6 players in the world, in their positions, in the world, everything. You can't drop one of them. You can't drop one of them. And the same thing was happening with Poch. You can't not play M&M. If they're fit, if they're good, and it's a big game, you play them. No questions asked. You cannot not take one of them. And especially you're not going to go and not take off Mbappe. The Mbappe who finally, after years and years of deliberation, not coming, finally comes to the club and is your new number 9 and whatnot, the new stadium and everything, and now you put him on the bench. You can't. So, and even for as the arguably in terms of the greatest manager of all times, if there's a name that comes to mind, it's Carlo Ancelotti. But even he doesn't have the, I guess, authority, or feels to a certain degree the pressure of having to play those 3 players there. And I think so long as that happens, I just do not see Real Madrid succeeding. I think, unfortunately, you had a system that worked last season. I think that's what you do. But that means that you put Mbappe on the bench for a couple of games. I think that's the best role. I thought maybe you put him out wide on the right this time. You try them out there. And I thought that actually, if anything, at the beginning of the game today, I thought in those first couple of minutes, Mbappe looked lively on the right wing. I think he looked different. He's played there obviously before with Monaco, even at PSG, in his early, at the beginning of his time at PSG. He was dominant there. So maybe that was it. But I just do not think you can have all 3 of them together. And I genuinely want to know what it is, because even of those 3 players, funnily enough, and I mentioned it on stream, I think that Mbappe, at least in these last couple of bad patches for Real Madrid, has been the least bad of those 3 players. I think Bellingham for me has been the worst. I think his attitude, on what he's been doing, getting frustrated on that, he's just not affecting him whatsoever, has been, for me, the worst of the three. Then Vinny, because even if we go back, for example, to the 𝙀𝙀𝘿𝘾𝘼𝘎 game and how we were making fun of, Mbappe being offside and everything, at least Mbappe was getting into positions to where he could be offside. Vinny wasn't even influencing the game at all to even be in positions of being offside. At least Mbappe being offside, scoring goals that were offside, this and the other, at least he's in those positions. All right. Now you'd say that he needs to rush his run better. Agreed. But at least he's getting in those positions. Vinny wasn't even getting in that. And so if anything, I think Mbappe is actually, of those three, has been the least bad. Now, that's not to say that he's been good or anything. I don't think he has been. But I genuinely want to know what the issue is. And if you're Carlo Ancelotti, what do you do? If you're Madrid fans, I want to know from Madrid fans, as a non-Madrid fan, what do you guys think is a solution to this? Are you guys saying Ancelotti's out? It's time you give him, you say goodbye to him. I think that's crazy. I don't think that you go and you fire arguably one of the most successful managers in history. Manager who's won you 2 Champions Leagues in the last 3 years, has won you 3 Champions League in the course of in the last 15 years or so on and so forth, 2 La Ligas and so on and so forth. To fire him a couple months out after winning it, I think is too spontaneous. And if there's anybody you want in this team where you've got a bunch of big egos and you want somebody who's a great manager, Ancelotti is number one. And there's maybe Zidane that's in there, but I don't think there's anybody more suited to the job than him. And if he can't find a solution to it, genuinely, I'm almost like, who can? Genuinely, and that's why I think that you can't blame the manager, even though I'm not saying that I think some of the decisions that he has made have just not worked out well. But I just don't see how you can have Vinny, Mbappe, and Bellingham play all together as a 3. And I really want to see, I'm really curious to see how this is all going to continue, and specifically come back to Mbappe. I find it really fascinating and interesting. And even though I want him, I enjoy Mbappe as a player, I like him and I want him to do well individual as a player. However, I must say that as a PSG fan, okay, I do find there is a bit of joy in my heart seeing that, okay, Mbappe, talked all this talk, all right, everything he did, all the problems that he caused PSG and everything, the drama and everything, to say, I want to go to Madrid, which is a bigger club, this and the other. Okay, now he's gone over there, and hey, maybe he's realizing it, but you know what? He had it pretty good at Paris. All right. He was the man. He had things around him. He could have been the king of Paris, but no, he decided to go in to be another player at Real Madrid. And so I find that interesting. I think when he goes to sleep in bed, and I hope that he thinks about maybe me going to Real Madrid and snubbing PSG in the way that I did, perhaps that wasn't the greatest decisions. And yeah, that's my 2 cents on that game. And now let's go on to the City Sporting game, which I'm going to be honest, I wasn't paying attention nearly as much, but all I'm going to say is City go away to Sporting Club of Sporting Lisboa, and they get creamed 4-1. And the first thing I want to say is I'm making a message to the British news media. All right. I want the British tabloids to be just as critical on City as they were when PSG got smacked by Newcastle last season. Okay. Because when PSG lost last season, it seemed like the world was ending. Newcastle was the best team in the world. Newcastle was the best team we'd ever seen. All right. Everything. And PSG was this backwater failure of a club, all right, mid-club, not even a pretender or anything. I want that same energy. I want that same energy on City, all right? They went away to, I would argue, probably at the time, Newcastle were probably better or at least on par with Sporting Lisbon and everything. So I want that same energy, that same criticism on the British media. I haven't really gone and looked, so we'll have to wait and see, but I want that same energy, because if they don't, and they're nice, it's City, it happens, then the other, no. I'm just going to say that just shows and confirms bias, this Premier League bias that I already know that exists in there. But I want that same energy, the same energy they went to criticize PSG, this, that, and the other, Luis Enrique, washed, and all the glazing that they did to Newcastle. I want the same energy and the same attitude with Sporting and the City game. Now, to get on to the game more specifically, obviously I wasn't watching it, keenly, but all I can say is, boy, Victor Gyökeres, come to PSG. Nasser, Enrique, I don't care. Luis Campos, you move heaven, earth, hell, whatever, purgatory, whatever you need. You move whatever to get him over that winter trend. He needs to be a PSG player come January 1st. You heard it here first. You heard it here first. Boy, oh boy, hat trick against Manchester. This isn't like hat trick against, some washed Portuguese club. Hat trick in the Champions League against one of, if not the best team in the world. What more can you say? Zlatan who? That's what he was making me say. I'm seeing flashbacks. I already see number 9 at PSG. All right, Zlatan-esque. I need him at the club. That's all I can say. I need this player at the club. Goodness me, Víctor Gyökeres. And even for City, I mean, it's interesting. Now it's what, three wins on the loss. I think it's the first time for City, and at least, I mean, I was seeing in 3 years that they've lost 3 on the trot like that. You had the Tottenham game this weekend against Bournemouth, and now against Sporting. And I think it puts to the question that, I mean, I just find it really interesting going back onto the Champions League, and everybody was saying that this format or the new format, they didn't like it. I mean, we weren't seeing this previously. Now, I'd be curious to know what you guys think as to why do you guys think that so many of these, classically big European teams, why are they faltering? Your Real Madrid, City, Bayern, PSG to a certain degree. Why are they not, I mean, if I go and I look of the top 8 teams, in the Champions League group phase right now, I don't think you got Real Madrid's not in it. Bayern's not in it. City's probably not in it anymore. Liverpool is realistically the only big quote unquote European team that's doing what you would expect them to do. All right. I think they're perfect when all of the games smash Leverkusen and doing what they're expected to do. I'd be curious to know why do you think that is? My theory, I think, is, I mean, it may sound cliche, but I think it's just some of these players are perhaps exhausted. Could it be that there's perhaps football is becoming a lot more democratic and a lot more fair, and that the gap between the best teams and the worst teams is shrinking, which I think overall for the game and for entertainment value, I think is good. Regardless of whatever the reason is, all I'm saying is I like it. I'm happy and I like it. And to Sporting, I mean, wow, what a way to end off your manager's Ruben Amorim's final game. And I mean, all I can say for Ruben Amorim is genuinely going from Sporting to Manchester United is a downgrade. I genuinely think right now is a downgrade. And I mean, I guess obviously you don't turn down Manchester United, one of the biggest clubs in the world and whatnot. You're going to be, earning way more money, so on and so forth. So I understand it from a career aspect, but sporting wise, I think it is a downgrade going from Sporting Club to Manchester United. And well, hopefully we'll be able to replicate some of the success that he had at Sporting at Manchester United. At least that is the wish of Manchester United fans, and we'll see if he's going to be able to do so. And yeah. That's that. What a night of football. Hopefully I'll be seeing you guys tomorrow for tomorrow's games. Hopefully my boys PSG are going to be able to capitalize on Real Madrid and the big clubs, faltering, and we'll be able to finally get another win on the board. And with that, guys, I wish to see you guys tomorrow. And remember, stay safe, stay kind, stay blessed. Godspeed.